Valentine's Day, a commemoration of love and devotion and Hallmark and those little candies with the misprinted messages on them. What better way to celebrate than by turning back the clock to that shining beacon of true love in an age of pragmatic marriage? A time of troubadours, of knights, and chivalry. Get ready for disappointment, friends. I'll be honest, my first thought was to make a video about St. Valentine, but apparently we know so little about him that we're not even sure if he was a single guy, but his name was Valentine and he's a martyr now. Instead, we're looking at Eleanor of Aquitaine, mother of the court of love, where tribunals of women would determine if lovely lovers were loving lovelily. Except none of that probably happened, it's just the result of one author's description and Victorian misconceptions. Oh, Victorians, you sentimental, repressed phrenesomas. But she is the first woman on this channel.
Finally.
Thank you, Conscience. She was born in France, where evidently half of world history takes place, as the daughter of Duke William X of, you guessed it, Aquitaine, who made young Eleanor the very model of a modern major general. She had information vegetable, animal, and mineral, not to mention arithmetic, constellations, sewing, spinning, singing, chess, Latin, literature, writing, hunting, and hawking, to name a few. But all that education came in handy because there was a duchy to run and William X was going to give it to her. And at age 15-ish, she became the most eligible bachelorette in Europe and swiftly married to Louis VII of France, a man with a terrible sense of fashion. But he quickly became king after his father kicked the bucket Oregon Trail style, and being a queen wasn't so bad. To celebrate 10 years of a meh marriage, Our Lady of Romance and her hubby decided to visit Asia Minor to kill some infidels, all in good sport, maybe try to reclaim Edessa while they're at it, and along the way stop and say hello to Eleanor's uncle Raymond, Prince of Antioch and inventor of the Holy Hand Grenade. Eleanor led the vanguard like a medieval Penthesilea until the back of the cavalcade with Louis in it got attacked, and suddenly she was a lady who brought way too much baggage, and have you heard the rumor about her and her uncle? Pretty depraved. I can't say for sure what happened, I wasn't there, but I can say that Eleanor and Raymond were advocating taking back Edessa, but it was Louis's way or the highway, and since highways didn't exist, they were going to Jerusalem, which they did, and soon left, because that crusade was really not going so well for the Christians. The only thing they accomplished was giving Lisbon back to the Portuguese, and why couldn't you just be Iberia? But Eleanor picked up some tips and tricks for maritime law and eventually brought them to England, so that's something. There was a little bump in the road home when they got attacked by the Byzantines and were presumed dead for a couple months, which must have made things really awkward for whoever was planning to be the next king of the Franks. Eleanor and Louis's marriage at this point was on the rocks, and she asked Pope Eugene for an annulment, i.e. divorce that wasn't technically divorced because the marriage never happened in the first place, on the grounds that her husband was her third cousin and incest is bad, right? But Eugene just gave them a bed and said, here, have a son, that'll make things less complicated. But then she had a girl, and Louis and the Pope realized that this marriage really wasn't happening, so Eleanor got her lands back and a chance to be her own woman again. One fine morning, as Eleanor is riding home to Poitiers, two lords a-leaping came jumping out of the bushes, declaring that they were going to kidnap her so they could marry her and enter her into a loving and committed relationship. That way, they could take all her lands legally. After kidnapping her. Wait. She escaped and promptly wrote to the Duke of Normandy asking for his hand in marriage. That way other would-be suitors would back off. And since he hadn't tried to kidnap her. That duke was her slightly closer cousin, Henry II. Yes, that... No, not that Henry II. Thank goodness they weren't alive at the same time. In no time, Henry II became King of England because Eleanor was as good at forging political marriages as she was at playing the harp. And backgammon. And quoting all the crimes of Heliogabalus. And together, they had 5 sons and 3 daughters, though Eleanor definitely did most of the heavy lifting. She still visited France from time to time, since she was still in charge of Aquitaine, and it was this point in her life that she's become known for, when she nurtured the ideas of chivalry and courtly love. Though again, that court of love is probably a myth, relationships require active communication and compromise, the concept of a soulmate is a statistically unlikely one. Happy V-Day. Speaking of relationships, her marriage with Henry II also wasn't a very happy one, but she did love her kids. So when little Henry the Younger staged the revolt in 1173, she hopped on board to support the young king. Except the young king never became king because Henry II suppressed that result faster than you could say something witty. Except he was kind of king because Henry II wanted him to be co-king so there wouldn't be any more civil wars and stuff. Link to CGP Grey down below. Unfortunately for Eleanor, she was thrown in the big house, specifically one of these castles. But don't worry because young Henry got off scot-free. While Eleanor was imprisoned, Henry II found the true spirit of courtly love in the form of Rosamund Clifford, his extramarital liaison with whom he had a much better connection, so how about that, Eleanor? Rosamund quickly met an untimely end. Eventually, Henry 82 bought the farm, and England got a new king in the form of Richard I, known for having the heart of a lion and a lifetime ban from the zoo. Since Richard had always been Eleanor's favorite, he promptly released Mother Dearest and let her run the country while he ran off to go on his own crusade. She also had to bail him out after he got captured. In fact, she outlived Richard and had more misadventures covering for her son John, which I would love to cover in detail, but oh, look at the time. Deciding she was finally too old for England's ship, she retired as a nun in France and went into that good night at the ripe old age of 82. Hello viewer, thanks for sticking around. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to continue the conversation in the comments below or by sharing to your social media platform of choice. I've got old videos on the screen and new videos every month, so mark your calendar or click the subscribe button below. See you next time.